Well, good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Dorn, and I have the opportunity to serve as the Director for Strategy and Outreach for IT here at FSU. And so what we do is we like to call ourselves the people side of tech. So it's really important that we have a lot of important Wi-Fi works for you guys, and it's important that we have apps that run as smooth as possible and that you can get what you need to do so that you can turn in assignments on time and that you can be a good student and apply and show everybody how great you are while you're a student here. But more than just the technology, our desire is to make sure that you have a good experience while you're doing it, that you're not just having to do these things, but that it's intuitive and it's easy for you to use. And so my teams are related to communications and marketing, change management, project management, and then, of course, user experience, which is what these ladies focus on the most. So we have a lot of fun on our team, and there's a team of about 30 of us when we count our awesome interns who come along to play with us each semester. So if you're ever looking for an internship in any of the IT fields, we have a variety of different internships that are available in UX and then also in some more technical positions as well.
I'm Kathy Wilkes, and I'm the Director of Culture and Engagement. I started working with ITS like 8 years ago with Rebecca before UX was really big on the map. We started creating apps for students. I had a strong webmaster background, so I could code. But I kept saying yes. Huh? I could not. She could not. But I started doing graphics and coding web pages, which just led me to UX. Rebecca and I started building apps for students, and I loved it, working with my hands, literally building applications, designs, and specs for our developers, and really grew into that front-facing role of talking to users, which I kept saying yes, and the intern program is under my department, under my team. User research is under our team. All the feedback we do on campus. We're also change agents, so we help walk you through change. Grace is our newest certified ProSci agent, change agent, and we do a lot with metrics. So we're here to support our staff and promote what they do. I need you to know how hard they're working for you, and I want them to feel really good about what they're doing. So the work that we work on, our team goes out and makes sure it's valuable. If it's not, we fix it. And then we go out and talk to you again so that I can come back and tell our teams how it's working and how everybody feels about it, and we make decisions based on your feedback.
Hi, I'm Grace Bayless. I work underneath Kathy as a user researcher. I actually started out as a user research intern my last semester of undergrad here at FSU and then transitioned into full-time. And kind of the last part of what she was saying about gathering requirements and talking to students, surveying, focus grouping is a lot of what I focus on, as well as conducting peer research on other universities. And yeah, my spiel, I guess.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyla Cocoilo, and my current position is IT Service Management Specialist at FSU ITS. I started as a UX research intern. When did we do that? Spring 2023, and then I was hired in the summer full-time as an ITSM specialist. So I definitely still work a lot with the user experience side of things. And we help to make sure that the services that we offer to students, faculty, and staff at FSU are working properly, working to the best of their ability, and that it's a good and pleasant user experience for everybody. So that's basically what I focus on these days. And yeah, I get to work with these lovely women, so we have a good time for sure.
You want to go first?
Yeah. So my background was in mass media communications. I graduated from Florida State in the early 2000s with that degree. And after a couple years of being a TV reporter and producer, I realized I did not want to do that anymore, and it wasn't the lifestyle for me. And so I decided to go back to grad school and came back and got my master's in higher education administration and loved it. But while I was working here at Florida State in helping with websites and doing applications, kind of hard coding websites, I was really bad at websites, I want to admit that, which is why Kathy's awesome. And so then when I moved over to the IT space, I was still doing a lot of designing based on what students would like versus what a developer who was really good at coding and really talented in the space of knowing how to make it work, but really didn't have much of an eye for what somebody else would want it to look like. They were designing it for themselves, and their needs were very different than what an 18-year-old college student would be interested in doing. So there was no such thing as user experience at that point. It was not even a term that had been developed yet, but it was web applications, it was, and not like apps, like web things you would do on a website, and a web, like creating web forms and things like that. And so I always like to tell the story about how I got called to my boss's office, and I have no idea why I'm being called there, but he's like, "What do you think about us starting a user experience team here at FSU?" And I was like, "I like it." I had no idea what that was. And so he's like, "Well, what do you think about doing what you do, but doing it bigger and having more people do it with you?" I was like, "I like that idea, yeah." And so he got a phone call from somebody else, and while he's gone, I'm literally on my phone under the table Googling UX. What is user experience? Because I just said I thought it was a great idea, but I had no idea what I just said it was a great idea. I just knew I really liked what I did, and I thought more people should get to do what I loved. And so whenever he got off the phone, I had some better buzzwords ready by that point and realized I was doing user experience all those years in a very, very traditional sense of web application development and creating designs that were based on what other people needed and used versus just what I thought was cool. And even if I didn't like the colors or I didn't like the layout, it didn't matter because it wasn't for me. And I needed to really advocate for what the people who were going to use it would be willing to use and be flexible with that. So that's how I got into it. And then from there, we grew from a team of 1 to a team of 3, and then now a team of 30. Yeah, a team, for sure.
I don't know that my story is too far off from Rebecca's in that I said yes when I kept turning corners. I came from a graphic video production background, and I worked at an aeronautical university. They have a whole program called Human Factors, which is UX, but for planes and cars. And like finally a car company decided to build a minivan with a box holder instead of round cup holders, because kids had box drinks. They don't anymore. This is like, I'm dating myself here. But so I really cared about if it was usable. When I got into webmaster work, I just thought I was good at it. And sometimes confidence can help you. I can be very confidently wrong, so it's important to note that. But I really enjoyed working with people, solving the problem, building it, not deciding if it was good or bad. And I felt like I had a knack of working as the middleman between a developer who is very code-centered. You give them a book of encyclopedias, like a room of encyclopedias, they know exactly where they need to go and on what page. But the rest of us kind of aren't like that. We need the legend or the color roadmap, and that is how I always saw the world. So I felt like I could bridge that gap between a developer and, say, a student or faculty or staff, and like take the heat off of the developer or take the heat off of the user. Like, it doesn't matter that you think it's ugly. What matters is that you can't see the buttons, and that's something I can improve. That's an accessibility thing that I can help you with. So I really care now about accessibility and developing for whether it's for a disability. I have a son who has a disability, so I'm very keyed into that, or whether it's visual or hearing impairment. So user experience is far beyond whether it looks good and it's usable for you. It's also accessibility for everybody, and we're building that in. That's good, well-formed user experience. And as artistic as I like to consider myself, I'm also very uptight. So I have a very particular way things should go. And user experience has kind of helped me gather requirements and focus on other people's needs and put all of mine on the back burner.
Yeah, so I majored in ICT in undergrad here at FSU, and some other ICT people. I just really liked the people side of it, and I didn't really want to be just coding in a room by myself as a career. So when looking at, all the careers you can go into that they go on and about when you're getting your bachelor's, UX just sounded interesting to me. And then I got this internship with Kathy, and I really liked it, and I learned a lot, and yeah, sort of just fell into it.
Our interns are amazing. I mean, I'm looking at a table, and then I look to my left and my right, and you guys are amazing.
For me, I also did my undergrad in IT here at FSU. And growing up, I kind of knew that I wanted to go into IT. Both of my parents worked in IT, and they worked fully remote and made a lot of money. So I was like, all right, this is something I could get behind. I definitely want to be able to vacation while working on my computer. So that's really why I went into the field in the first place. And then junior year came around, and I was like, I really need some real world experience. Let me apply for as many internships as I can. And I interviewed for 2 positions at ITS, and I really enjoyed my time with Kathy when we were interviewing. So I decided that I would take the UX position, and I knew what user experience was at that point through Eve's class especially. And I was super excited to get some real world experience with UX. And since then, I loved it. The people side is definitely where I see myself continuing my career in tech. I have some of the hard skills, but definitely see myself thriving with the soft skills, and I feel like this is a really good fit for my personality.
And thank you, Kyla, for bringing up soft skills. I know a lot of you guys it seems like you have a communications background, so we wanted to ask, how important do you think are presentation and communication skills in UX design?
Presentation, for sure, I feel like that's the first thing people notice when they go to a website is how it looks, if it's, nice to look at, if it, is intuitive. So I think that's pivotal to the success of, whatever, your website, your app, anything that you're designing.
It's also really important if you're going into a survey or a focus group to be able to stand up in front of a group of people and be able to explain exactly what you're talking about in real world terms. It's easy to get caught up in the tech jargon of everything, but it's also important to be able to reel it back and speak in a language that a normal person can understand who doesn't have a tech background. So that's another really important skill that you have to have communications-wise working in tech.
So as my team grows and my position grows, we're tasked with informing our staff about what's going on at ITS and on campus. We don't just want you to work here, we want you to love it as much as we do. So when can you go talk to students? Being on a panel talking to students is a privilege that all of us have, and it is not lost on us because we love working with students, and so do our IT staff. So through meetings, we are doing a ton of not traditional user experience at all, but we are trying to appeal to everybody we work with, from the really front fun side, like the floofy side like me, to our hardcore developers. We're finding ways to meet them where they're at so that we're all on the same page and making improvements for everybody.
I know. I am. I love this. This has been great for me. So I think a couple more hard skills that I would recommend is adaptability. things are constantly changing. For some reason, I don't have the same opinion as 18-year-olds anymore, and I'm really quite offended by that because I like to think I'm still cool, but let's be real. I have kids that are almost y'all's age, so it's not likely that I have the same opinion and think about the same things that you do. So something I designed 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, it may not work for y'all. And so I have to put aside my pride and say, okay, I like it, and I think I'm pretty good at this, and I've sat through all those conversations of why we did it the way we did it, but that doesn't matter anymore. That's not what today's student needs or today's faculty need, and I need to be okay with some change, which change is hard, and it's hard for all of us in different ways, but being okay with it is sometimes the hardest part.
And I guess to kind of shift gears to UX as a whole as a field, when we're talking about companies, do you feel like they value UX or user experience with their services, or what do you guys think about that?
So I think that you will often find user experience roles on a marketing team. Sometimes it's embedded in technology teams, but often it's more on the marketing communication side because it's so important to be able to go out and gather that data of what do our users or our customers or our consumers need and want, and then being able to turn that back around and deliver the product that they need it in the way that they need it and be able to market it so that they realize that you're giving them back what they need. And so you could look at customer experience. That's another really popular term for user experience. So more on like when there's something that's being sold, it's more called customer experience instead of user experience. So I think in that way, when you can show a return on investment because you're able to show that the sales increased based on this user change, it's a lot easier to quantify on a college campus when we're not trying to sell you anything. You already go here. We have to find new and creative ways to measure our success and measure our effectiveness, and we do that with Kathy's team being able to go out and talk to people and getting a thumbs up, thumbs down on several of the things that we've implemented.
Rebecca has told me 1,000,000 times, metrics are where it's at. And I really believe you. But it's taken me a very long time because numbers are not my friend. I'm artsy, I am creative, but you're gonna find user experience or customer growth in those types of areas. Business relation management, I would argue that you're absolutely a UXer for people. Absolutely. And it's in every industry, education, hospitals, IT buildings, Department of Education, or IT is everywhere. User experience is in everything we do. We just don't call it that, whether we make categories because it's easier to find it in the store or just it's everywhere. You're gonna find a lot of it in metrics and in feedback and in customer solutions.
I don't know that I can say anything better than Kathy just did. But yeah, I mean, my whole role is making sure that our user, the students, and the staff are happy. And I've seen it. I worked at Chick-fil-A for 2 years, and the customer's always right. So yeah, I feel like in every field, in every company, it's super important to keep your customer happy, to keep them returning and using your product and growing along with you.
I think it is absolutely valued, especially with AI on the rise and people thinking that that's going to take over a lot of tech jobs, which it is. Likely the tech field will change. Will our jobs just get called something else? Probably. But user experience is something that, at least for now, a human touch is a necessity. There is no way that a computer can take over being able to make something applicable for a person. So I think that it is definitely valued, especially in this time where we have technology taking over a lot of these mundane tasks that people are currently doing as their career. Also, Rebecca inspired me with that answer from the Women in Leadership Conference yesterday.
confidently wrong here. So I was a little nervous about it, but I will tell you, we have Copilot in our office, and I call her Connie. She is my girl. I overthink every. Copilot Copilot is nope, it's not open. It's through Microsoft, and it is there. It's like ChatGPT or Claude AI. And so, but it's Microsoft's Copilot, and I have it embedded in my applications. There's also a free version, which everybody here has access to. You know, you should be looking at Copilot, and you should be looking at ChatGPT. Look at a variety and see what those things look like. But she's my Copilot now. Connie and I can write letters and emails so much faster. I tell her, Nina is an awesome student, and she did this and this and this for me, and I want it to be so professional. And Connie will help me write that letter, and I love it. So I'm not afraid of AI anymore. I like to think about when you text somebody, and if you do it in all caps, do they understand what you're saying? Are you yelling at me, or did you just not unclick it? And so we're the person in between that really help disseminate what that all caps means. Whether you're lazy, was your cap lock on, or are you mad? And Copilot can't really determine all of that just from uppercase and lowercase. That's the human part. So embrace AI, have it help you. You've been using it forever. Who has Google? Who has Siri? Who has a watch? Embrace it, learn about it, and have it help you. I love Connie.
Sure.
Do you love Connie?
I do love Connie.
We love Connie.
Yeah, I think not Copilot, but AI in general gets a lot less scary when you start thinking of it as a tool instead of a replacement. Like Kyla was just saying, I think for me, professionally and doing, like she was saying, mundane tasks like writing an email or something, it just speeds up the process, but you're still going in and you're adding your own touch and editing it. So yeah, just using it as a tool and not a crutch, I guess.
I was never really scared of ChatGPT or Copilot or any of those things. I was super excited when it came out, and then people started talking about the security concerns, and I was like, ooh, yeah, I am telling them that I'm going to be at this place, staying at this hotel on this day. I should probably not do that. So I have definitely really enjoyed that FSU has Copilot, and I can put my data in there through work or personally, and I know that it's protected through the university. I use it every single day. Some of my favorite things that I've done recently is I've had it write me user stories. And that's been super helpful, although it is nothing like going out and hearing actual feedback from a person. It's a great place to start. So I asked it for user feedback on something that I was working on for work, and it was able to write me a persona for that specific task that I was asking, which was super helpful. I also today plopped in an Excel doc with like 3,000 rows of data, and I needed to find metrics that I could talk about in a meeting, a governance council for this new tool that we have been using for the past 6 months. And it helped me create interesting stats instead of ones like averages and counts and sums that I probably would have been able to come up with on my own. So I really enjoyed that it was able to help me make a more engaging point. And yeah, the opportunities are really endless. I use it every single day and would recommend that you all do too.
I'll just add that it's here to stay. It is the new internet, in my opinion. Back when we were using it, it was originally like, don't Google anything, don't trust Google. Well, it is now what professors are saying, like, don't use AI. And right now everybody uses Google, and give me like 2 years and everybody will use AI. So it's here to stay. I don't think that you need to be afraid of it. You just need to be smart with it. And I always recommend to people, don't use AI for things you're really good at, because you'll only get annoyed with it. Use it for things that you either hate doing yourself, AKA that's what a Roomba vacuum cleaner is for, is I don't like to vacuum. I let a computer vacuum for me. Or do things that you're not good at. And it can help explain things to me in, like, I can say, explain quantum physics to me like I'm a 10-year-old so that I can understand what this professor is talking about. And And it does. It gives me, as a 10-year-old, it explains it to me. And then I can be like, okay, I get where we're going with this. And I can be more educated and more confident to be able to speak to that professor who is an expert in their field. That's not something I'm going to take time to research. But meanwhile, I don't have it write my emails for me because I like having control over that myself.
And so you guys are talking about embracing this new tool and using it. Do you guys know of any other, or can you guys speak on any other challenges you guys have had as UX designers and as all these new tools come up and you guys got to use them?
Yes. So it's still a computer, and it's not that smart, but it's getting smarter every day. And so I heard somebody yesterday say it's never going to be as dumb as it is today. It's only going to get better from here, which is true. But right now, one user experience that we have with AI is that people want it to read their minds. And unless you're willing to put like a chip in, then it's not going to read your mind exactly. And so we often get frustrated by what's called prompt engineering, and that's how you write the AI prompts. You say, act like I'm a 10-year-old and help me plan to speak to so-and-so about this topic. So you kind of have to give it like a scenario and tell it how you want it to be outputted. But we don't think like that. We just want to be like, tell me what quantum physics is, like I'm stupid or like I'm a 10-year-old. And it just can't quite get there as fast as you want it to get there. So you have to take a step back and give it how it expects to be given. And so that user experience isn't quite there yet. So that's been some challenge in that people don't like Copilot for M365 because it's not quite intuitive enough. It's not like, hey, Siri, do whatever I want, and then it just automatically does that. How many people have had that experience where they say, like, hey, Alexa, turn off my such and such, and it doesn't turn it off? And are you mad at Alexa? Yeah, you are, because she didn't do what you told it to. No, you didn't say it correctly. You forgot to say living room TV instead of TV, right? That's a real example for me. But I'm mad at her because she didn't do what I told her to do, right? But it's still a computer, and we just want it to be able to, you knew I meant that TV. Don't give me a hard time. Just turn it off, right?
Yes, all of that. I have Alexa at home. I have Siri on my watch. I know a real Alexa, so it gets really confusing. And I have chosen to embrace it. And I remember when my dad was afraid to have his credit cards online. And now we have them on our phone. And if I was asleep, you could probably get access to it by just like holding it up to my face, right? Like that. So, be smart, but embrace it. Say yes instead of no. It's been a hard lesson for me to learn that because no is easy. Change is hard and scary, and I don't want to change anything. But you totally do. You want to grow. You want to learn more. You want to adventure more. You want to think about it in a different way. And that, for me, is what Copilot M365 has done for me the most. And I do call her Connie a lot. Because when I yell at her, I want to yell at her, not at Copilot. I'm like, Connie, come on, girl. But, say yes. It seems weird, and it's uncomfortable, but uncomfort is kind of where the good stuff blooms. And every time I hang out with more people who are interested into UX and to tech, the more I just love it because we're making good stuff and we care about people outside of ourselves. And that's what I love the most about UX is the empathy side and that you're trying to put yourself in somebody's shoes. AI is never going to put themselves in your shoes. They can tell you about somebody's shoes if you asked it correctly, but that human side of empathy, we can't tech that. We can't AI that. People are trying. I listened to a podcast that they're trying, but you need us. You need people with a heart and a soul and a look at you in the eyes kind of thing. I don't even know who's calling.
To echo what Rebecca said, I think for me personally, there was a major learning curve with prompting and revising your prompt until it, gets what you want. And also knowing that, maybe it's just not there on certain things. I have the most experience with the Copilot for M365 because that's what we use a lot, Connie. Yeah, Connie.
We still own Copilot for M360. we know the name of it as well, but we're still running that program, so
Yes.
we're a little biased.
Yeah, and so for that tool specifically, I feel like it performs very differently in the different apps. So I don't think that it's quite there for what I needed for Excel, but I think it's pretty good at Word. Same for PowerPoint. I think it can give you a good layout. And I remember I was working on some project for some class for my master's, and I had to make a PowerPoint on pickleball. And so I just was like, hey, make me a PowerPoint presentation with 10 slides on pickleball, and it populated like headers and photos and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, just like learning the tool, the specific tool you're using, and troubleshooting.
Really quick. I heard Kyla say she put Excel into Copilot and got some interesting facts. And all of our research and feedback, Excel is one of the hard ones. So we're going to come and talk to you and hear what you did. So like, I'm listening to her tell you guys this, and I'm like, Grace, we got to go get some feedback and figure out what she did so we can make a one-pager so that we can send it to faculty, because none of us know how to use Copilot in Excel.
Why, thank you. I actually put it into the web version. I dropped my document into the web. Yeah.
Get out of the app.
Yeah, today. We'll talk later. We'll talk later. Yeah. Exactly. For me, the biggest challenge is that things are moving really fast. I feel like every time I go onto a different app, it's like, try our new AI. Like, I love Notion. I don't know if there's anybody that's familiar with that. Yeah, good stuff. For the people that aren't, it's like a databasing tool pretty much. I use it for everything. I use it for school, I use it for work, I use it for recipes, I use it for travel itineraries, all types of things. And a few months ago, I saw the little Notion AI, and I was like, ooh, this is good, we're getting there. So it just feels like every application, if you don't have an AI plugin, you're behind. So it's really interesting to see all of these new things popping up, but it's also a challenge because it's something new to learn every time I go into a different app. So keeping up with the different nuances between each program's AI is definitely a challenge, but we're getting there. And I feel like as we progress, it'll all start to be more similar, and each application will learn from each other. So we'll eventually get to a good place where it's very universal.
And so we're going to get to student questions in just a second, but one last thing that we can kind of have for a take home. We have a room full of students who have learned about your journey and what you guys do with UX. Is there any steps that you guys suggest that the students can take if they do want to pursue a career in UX?
You had it. Look at you guys. Me? You guys heard me say it. Say yes. Keep saying yes. Hear something, fix it. Problem solve. You're at the grocery store. You're at work. You're in your bathroom. You're problem solving. I know it's UX, but I'm a problem solver. I'm a fixer. And I'm super empathetic. And so I'm always going to lean on my strengths. My team, our team, is beautiful because we each have different strengths. And when I met Kyla and Grace, I knew they had it. They had it. You have it. You have it. I think Rebecca knew I had it. What is it? I have no idea. But you know it when you see it, and you see it in each other. So keep watering that. Keep growing that. Kyla's going to be a CIO one day of a big company. I know it. Grace's research, because of her, we're going to develop some really great things. Her legacy will be what she develops and helps us understand. Our developers are learning more about you because of how Grace gives them that information. So just keep pouring into that cup. Keep blooming, keep growing, keep learning, but don't oversaturate yourself. There's way too much crap out there. Be an expert at one app, not 20.
I love that. Very inspirational today. I'll go more like straight down the line about check out our internships. We're obviously a big proponent of getting some hands-on experiential learning, so check that out. We offer them in the fall and in the spring. Check out different podcasts that there are on user experience. There's blogs that talk about this. I often encourage students to take a website that's horrible and rip it to shreds and redesign it. And think about why you're redesigning it, not just because it's ugly. You shouldn't change things just because it's ugly. You should change things because it doesn't work how it's supposed to work and it doesn't make sense to you as a user. And it's a really good exercise to help you think through why are you changing it from one thing to the next. If you're just doing it because I don't like the color orange and blue, that's not really a valid reason to change a website around. But think about the information architecture of it, think about the layout of the page, the accessibility of the page, and really think about why. And then that will help you continue to kind of grow your skills along with reading and experiential learning.
Nice.
So definitely get an internship. I think that is a fatal flaw that people make in undergrad is they don't get real world experience. They graduate and they're like, oh my God, I can't get a job because everyone else, did X, Y, and Z. I think to acquire said internship, it's really important to keep your eyes on the lookout. We don't have our internships posted year round, there's specific dates. Make sure that you have your contacts, this date it's gonna be published and get in there. Apply to literally anything that sounds interesting. Maybe you're like, oh, but I don't really want to do the UX research. I want to do the UX design. Get that UX research one. Teams are probably connected. Get experience. And then I think that not relying solely on a LinkedIn or what Knoll Network, I think is the one, FSU, branch out, look everywhere. You can put out a Google alert if you need to. I found that it's helpful if you're looking into private companies. I don't know if this really applies to UX specifically, but just tech jobs in general. Look up top companies in Tampa, Florida. Go to the website specifically on their careers page, because maybe they don't post on LinkedIn, and just be putting those applications in, get your resume reviewed, just really being on top of getting that real world experience, because I think that it's so much more valuable than anything I learned in the classroom.
Definitely the internships. Also, there are a lot of great classes offered at FSU related to UX, so highly recommend getting into those if you can. Also, if you're interested in seeking a master's degree, I found a lot of those classes in the master's program. I'm doing the Master's of Science and Information Technology program right now. A lot of those are really great as well. So definitely get in there if you can. Additionally, what Grace was just talking about, when you're going to apply for internships, you definitely need to have those soft skills. That's the most important part. Hard skills can be taught in an internship, that's the whole point. But if you don't have that go-get-em attitude and a smile on your face in your interview, you're not gonna land the position. So practicing those hard skills, practicing your elevator pitch, going to all the different career fairs that FSU has to offer, and just putting your face out there in the community is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. And LinkedIn Learning, we offer that through FSU, and you can access it for free, and there's a lot of really great courses, not just in the tech field, on all sorts of different things. So definitely check that out in your free time.
Doctorates were in.
Mine is in instructional systems through the College of Education.
Dogs. I don't have a doctorate. Dogs. I'm an art student. Long live us art weirdos. We're fine. We're good. We work hard. I've been in the industry for 25 years, but I don't have a doctorate.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It says Dr. Ryan, that's why.
Oh, it's sure.
Hey, my bad. You gave me a doc? I did by accident. I love you. Thank you. See, Dr. Mike. Yeah, I couldn't. That's all it took.
I was shocked myself, low key.
I worked way too hard for that. No, I didn't. I actually typed it in. I
Did you guys describe what UX was, perchance? I don't know if you guys went over that, but I don't know, because this is an Engage 100 thing, right? Or, yeah. So I don't know if people are familiar with what like UX is or what it stands for, and if you guys can give an example, that would be awesome.
All right, so user experience, UX, user experience, UI, user, thank you, interface. Maybe one's more design heavy, one's more implementation heavy. User interface is like where the button is. User experience is like the button's always on the right and this one was on the left, so I canceled it out, but it's the only one of your forms that the cancel's on the right and not the left, and so I threw you off. User experience is developing for a user. A whole bunch of users, students, faculty, staff, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, women, men, old, young, but you're developing for a user. You're making something for a user. Just like a car, like the minivan example, it wasn't called user experience, but they asked moms, what do you need in this vehicle? We need drink holders that hold these. They don't even make, I don't even think they do box drinks anymore, but they, so Juicy Juice is left, holding strong. Juicy Juice is the box. You all probably had box drinks, right, when you were growing up. Well, that was like one of the first real user experience things. Like they went out and asked moms, what do you want in this car? And they put it in there. So developing for a user. Did I get it?
User design, like the design, for the artistic side. User research is for people who are looking to do more research, analytical minded. Like a content designer would be somebody who doesn't do visual design, but is like helping write words, or information architecture, which is like, if you think of a site map, how you cluster different things together on a website. So if you have
Categories.
categorically get things together, that's information architecture. Does that help?
I think I know because that's my boyfriend. I know. I've talked to him about that all the time, but he's just helping out for content.
I wonder if he's your boyfriend. He was so excited about it.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a question? Ask the panel. Go for it.
Yes. So I wanted to know your guys' sort of perspective, ideas on accessibility kind of right now in this sort of climate that we're in, because it's something that I'm concerned about. And not getting too much into it, but seeing how different policies and ideas have been shared around, and accessibility isn't a priority, especially at the national level. So I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts about that. Here, I'll pass it to you.
All right. I knew they were all gonna look to me to take this one, so thank you for that. So I recently was at a conference where there was a bunch of higher education institutions there trying to figure out how to solve this problem exactly. And the key takeaway that I would say is, regardless of if there's a policy or a mandate for or against it at a national or state level, accessibility is the right thing to do. Full stop. It is what we all should do. Now, accessibility could include complexion colors. It could include disabilities of a variety of ways. It could include just that it is available and easy to use for all users. And so as higher education institutions, we are encouraging each other that regardless of what policies come down or do not come down, that we are still going to stay committed towards moving forward our websites to being accessible for all users. And so most recently, under the Biden administration, they said that by 2026, we needed all websites to be completely accessible, all web content in general. And so this includes all archived pages as well, which is a huge undertaking. And if you could imagine every Canvas course needing to also be turned accessible in the past and going forward, it's a huge undertaking. And so regardless of what your political affiliation is, it's a huge task for us as an institution to try and roll back and get anything that's old and move forward and make sure that everything's right. That being said, our current administration federally may pull all that back and say that's not where they want people to spend their time and energies. But we as a collective know that it's an investment of time and energy, but something that's worth doing.
Often as you're coding, if you're doing well-formed coding, you're going to build in accessibility to your websites because you're coding correctly. It's not just, it's visual color blindness. So accessibility is as easy as, when Rebecca's like orange and blue, I was like, oh, I could advocate this, because what if they can't see those shades of blue? And so you wouldn't know if it's a link or if it was text. And so just because I'm going to advocate for the other side, I can see that, but ultimately accessibility is as easy as an alt tag in an image.
Yes, so that's a good point. So the conversation at this national stage was more about if we fix things going forward, then we only have to go back and fix things that when we weren't educated and we didn't know better. But if we can start educating our students and educating all of our web developers to make things correct the first time around and be thoughtful the first time around, we won't have to roll back and fix everything like we have to at this point.